Hi, it's Heather from Flowers by Jenny Lynn, and we are going to be making a flower arrangement that is bright, pulling in colors from the Pantone color of the year, which is Viva Magenta, something that they chose because they wanted something powerful, something that invoked empowerment and just pure joy when you think of that color. It is a very old color. It's one of the oldest natural dyes that has been discovered in the world. So we're digging all the way back to our natural roots when we pick this color. It's in the red family, but it has such a brightness to it that when you pair it up with other colors, it just electrifies the color. So our arrangement is very electrifying this month, very bright. Even though it's February, you might think, oh, we're going to do an arrangement on love, something that has to do with Valentine's Day. Well, I purposefully moved this arrangement to the end of the month so we could focus on something else. So let's talk about some of the flowers that we're working with in our supplies. So we're going to go through the supplies first. You're going to get a hot pink container. It's a nice solid dish that you can work with afterwards. Again, that brightness just goes with everything. You're going to have 2 water tubes that you will need to pop off their tops and fill with water ahead of time. You're also going to have 4 thick wires to work with as well. You will have a half a brick of foam that you'll need to soak ahead of time in your sink. Get the water tubes out of there, and we're going to be placing that upright in our container and just push it down gently. It will go all the way to the bottom and then fill water into your container up to within 1/4 of an inch after you have finished designing. Just keep in mind, because as you put flowers in, it displaces the water and rises your water line. So wait until after you design to refill that container. Okay, let's talk about our flowers. We are going to be working with some bright colors today. I have a lovely magenta carnation, very, very bright pink. We're going to be working with some dyed, I can get them all to come out of the bucket together. Some bright hot pink tree fern. We're going to work with green trachelium. There you go. We're going to work with some orange roses called Free Spirit. And I don't know if you can see this in the light, but it shades in colors from a peachy to an orange and then hot pink on the edges. So it kind of really works in with our color theme here. You will have 3 of those. You'll have 3 of the green trachelium, since I didn't go over the numbers. You will have 4 of the hot pink tree fern. You'll have 3 carnations. You will also have, get this out of the package here, from leaving them on the stem till the last minute, you are going to have 2 green cymbidiums. So at the last minute, I will pop 2 of them off and show you how to put them into your arrangement. But this is how they come, nice and long on a stem. They are a chartreuse color, which isn't that so fun to work with against the orangey tone and the hot pink tone. Very bright. We want all of our colors to pop. We'll also be getting some orange tulips. They're wanting to be orange. They will be orange when they grow up a little bit more. Something else that we're going to be playing with is our foliage. One of the things that's kind of a foliage, kind of a flower, kind of a branch, kind of a linear element in our design is going to be some forsythia branches. And they have been in water for probably 3 or 4 days now. Some are wanting to bloom, but I have a feeling a lot of it is just going to contribute to the linear part of our design and not be a color element. I did not plan on them being a color element because of the time of year. Give us a couple weeks and then they will be in bloom. The other foliage we're going to be using is our tried and true Israeli ruscus, long lasting, something hardy to work with. Something different that we haven't worked with in a while is going to be equisetum or horsetail rush. It comes in a bundle. We are going to use 4 of them. So I was going to wait to unbundle them when I got to my design time. And that way they don't bend. We keep them nice and tight together. We're going to take 4 of them out of the bundle here. They have hollow stems. They grow near water sources like still ponds and slow moving streams. You will see them near the cattails and things like that in certain areas of our country. And they have this really neat structure here, kind of reminds you of bamboo, and each of these sections can hold water. So if you cut it right below this knuckle, you can fill water into the tube and it will not go down. So it can also be used as a natural water source. But I'm going to put them aside. They are going to be one of our last elements to use. Okay. So let's get started, and then partway through, we'll talk a little bit about another project that I'm working on, which is the Philadelphia Flower Show. So here is in our pink plastic container is our brick of foam. And what we are going to start with is some of our greening elements just to get our basing in first. And that is going to be our green trachelium. It has that resemblance of moss. It's very fluffy. So we've got some textural elements going on. We've got fluffy, we have spiky. With our orchids, we have very shiny and smooth. We have fluffy also with our carnations. So we're going to get these buried into our arrangement. We're always going to cut on an angle. So let's get these taken apart. Some might have these little side tendrils. Many of them are just going to come like a big treetop display. I'm going to remove the side pieces. If you do have them, we're just really going to work with the top piece. If you do have those side pieces, you can still insert them in. All right, so we are going to work on an angle here. So we're going to have some of our pieces in the back, some of our pieces in the front here. And in my front, I'm just making them a little lower. I will turn that around to show you. I had one piece that was not cooperating, kind of bent in the process of my cutting. All right, so if you see from my front, I've grouped two of them together, and then I put one in my back. I'm keeping them relatively low. If you do have these little side pieces, you can tuck them in, but again, they are not necessary, something that is unexpected and not planned. We're going to hold off on putting in this foliage. I know we usually put that in towards the beginning, but we're going to hold that also as well to closer to the end. The next thing that we're going to work with is our fluffy tree fern. And you might have it where it's multiples on a stem. You might have a piece that is just one fluffy piece. And I'm still going to take this apart into two pieces. So I've got the top center and then almost a Y shape here so that I can maximize its color and pull it together. We can cut that down a little bit more. Again, always cutting on an angle here. And we're going to get some of that in our back. Again, I'm going to take some of those pieces that we can break in down to multiples. And I'm going to work towards the center. So I'm going to follow this line behind. Here we go. And I'm just going to continue to reinforce that line of color of this hot pink shade. So it's pulling up from the container in through this line that is going from side to side. So it can be very dramatic. When you use color in a big, bold way, you can be very dramatic about it. I am going to put a little bit of it down in this front area just to kind of cover the container. I'm just breaking off really tight pieces that I'm tucking in deep. I am using a knife. Many of you will be working with, as I put on your list, kitchen scissors or florist shears. If you ever want to learn the proper ways to use a florist knife with flowers and stems and things like that, please let me know and we can go over that. We can take some time after a class to talk about how to use a knife properly with flowers. It's a lot different than cutting food, as you would imagine. All right, let me bring this up closer to you. You can see I've got a little tuft down here in the front, and then this line across the back has the tree fern. All right, so the next thing that we're going to put in, I'm going to get my line in here. We talked about line and using the forsythia branches. In the heat of our homes, it is possible that some of the buds that are a little bit more advanced might open. So I'm going to work, this is the front and this is my right side, but it is your left side. So I'm going to make my height on my left side. And I've got this very long branch here and I'm going to cut it about, yeah, right about here. So depending on how long your stem is, I'm leaving about 18 inches on to design with. So I'm breaking that off with my knife, or you can cut with your scissors. I am going to take off these lower pieces here because they are just going to get in the way of the foam. And I'm going to have my piece kind of trailing out of my arrangement, leaning it on an angle. Trying to create some dynamic line by having it start here at the top left corner and bring you right down into the arrangement. This piece here, I'm going to cut into a couple of pieces. It's kind of branchy. You might have some straight pieces. You might have some branches. I made sure that I grabbed for myself at least one of each so I can show you how you can attack each one of them and put them into your design. So I took this longer piece that has the little branches on the side and I broke it into two. This one I can get in deeper. This one I'm going to leave taller. So this guy here is going to come more nestled into the arrangement. Once I turn it around, I'm going to decide if I want to keep this branch here. You can see from the front, it is sticking into the design space in the front, and that might cause a problem when I'm getting in my other flower. So I just need to consider my placement once I turn it around and look at it. And this piece here, and take off this lower. I'm leaving this as far as like tip to bottom is probably another 18 inches. I'm going to turn around so I can look at it from the front. And I'm turning it in such a way that while I'm placing it in, this is the line that we're going to see when you're looking directly onto the arrangement. So I'm kind of mimicking the line that I initially put in. Let me turn this back around. What I am seeing and that I want to remove is some of the rest of the piece that I had cut off. So carefully, I'm going to get in there and trim that piece off. And then there's this line here that's created from one of the branches. I'm going to get that out of there so it's not crossing back into the arrangement. Let me turn that back around. And yes, I will remove this one here that's coming front forward. Removing all the little buds. So now, as you can see, if you hold it in a certain angle, you can see this is a line, and then this was our initial line, and this one is just leaning out a little further. They're working together in strength on this side of the arrangement. All right. So the next piece that I'm going to do is kind of ground our arrangement, give it a focal area, a place where your eye will rest at the end. And that we are going to use with our orange Free Spirit roses. They are a lovely rose. They have a lot of petals in there. That way, when you squeeze them, you're not really squeezing. It's kind of tight. This will still continue to open. It is just a wonderful rose to work with. So I'm going to cut them shorter and get them in deep. I'm going to get two here in the front, and then I'm also going to have one in the back. In this area here where we've got some space, just so that we fill that in case anybody sees the back of our arrangement. We always want to address all sides. So I'm only going to leave this stem about 6 or 8 inches long from the head to where I cut at an angle at the bottom. I'm going to place this one in tight up against the container, up against this tree fern, kind of pushing it over. Yes, the painted tree fern and the trachelium. Both of those are T words. I'm using my larger one by itself on the back side. He doesn't need to be as long, maybe 4 or 5 inches on the stem. So I'm putting him back here so he will, and I'm really holding the flower by its flower head and pushing in carefully. Once I have inserted the stem in so far, I will then cup the head and push that in as best as possible to get that all the way down to the bottom. You see how that's nestled down in there and the tree fern kind of fluffs around it. And my second rose, I'm going to get just a little bit higher into my arrangement. This is a fun stem. These are related to garden roses. So sometimes their stems are a little whimsical and they do what they want. So I'm going to get this one in front of my branches here, but behind this front rose. So sometimes you've got to just like work a little bit to get placement just where you like. You might have some resistance because of the stems that are already in there. That's what I was finding. So I needed to move it over a little bit. And these are going to work together as a pair in the arrangement. There we go. Okay. So the one thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the flower show that is coming up. By the time you see this message, we will be starting to gather all of our supplies that we are going to use for down at the flower show. I'm involved with the AIFD exhibit, and this year I am the chairperson for the event. So a lot of working behind the scenes, ordering flowers, getting supplies, creating the backdrops for each designer. There are 12 designers that are creating arrangements within our exhibit space. So if you have the opportunity to come down and take a look, come and find us at the AIFD exhibit. Now, what is making us different is we are working with colors and emotions that the color invokes. And that's why I wanted to bring up the color of the year, because it invokes that powerful emotion, joy, when you see this hot, vibrant magenta color used in the florals here. So we have done that, interestingly enough, through our designers. Each one of them was given a different color to use, whether it was blue or pink, turquoise, yellow, black and white is working together in a yin yang kind of a fashion. And each one of those colors makes you think and feel a particular way, whether it is joy, whether it is sadness, whether it is love, think red, or whether, you know, with sunshine, you think joy. With the blue tones, you think of calm and peace. You think of water sources. So that invokes a whole kind of emotional and sound. Even when you see colors, you actually can hear and feel sound, which is really cool, because it brings you back to places where you recognize that color before. So in working with that, each one of them has done something totally different. So I encourage you to look, go online, see what the flower show is doing, maybe catch glimpses of what's being done by each different exhibitor. There are quite a few in the floral department and landscaping. So I encourage you to take the time and to go and look or view the exhibits online. So that is just my little plug for something that I'm involved in this year, and how the use of color can bring joy to you and bring peace and bring calm, or just give you inspiration. So let's do a little bit more to finish off our arrangement here. The next thing I'm going to use is going to be our pink carnations. I, of course, chose one that's a little short. You know, I'll take the little bad guys once in a while. So I've got a little short one. And I also made sure I grabbed some that weren't quite open yet. So we're going to squeeze this calyx area here and fluff that baby right up. By fluffing it, you get the maximum amount of color, or you can just let it be. This one was kind of half and half, so we can still push in on its backside and fluff that so it is all the way fluffed. We're going to use this over on our branch side of the arrangement. I know I'm leaving this side alone, and that's okay. We will get to this, but we're going to work our stair step of our carnations onto this side where our strength is. I'm going to cut at an angle. And I'm going to get one in a little deeper, just right above my rose there. I'm going to turn around so that sometimes you have to stop and plan out where you're going. every time you do a design, it is going to come out a little bit different based upon how the elements are working together in this setting. So my sample might just be a little bit different than the one that was posted online versus the one that I'm doing now for class. Cut this down a little lower, and I'm going to remove those. There we go. So now we've got our hot pink and our branches bringing us down into our arrangement where our eyes settle down here. And now we've got to work with this other side, and then we're going to work with our orchids. So with our orange tulips, we're going to pull them up the other way. So we're creating this nice V. So we swing down up, and then we'll settle back down again. You might not need this lower leaf. You can leave the one that's right above on unless it bothers you. If you are going to take it off, it does leave a little bit on this. You can see a little bit of this burr going on. If you peel it off with your finger, you won't get all of it off. So I use a knife to shave that back. So I'm not taking much off the stem. Pull that off. There's a little bit of thickness down there that was left behind. You can kind of see. So I'm going to peel some of that off. Shave that back a little bit, making a cleaner line. Then I'm going to get a second one in here. Again, drawing our eye down into the arrangement. My third one, I'm just going to play around with placement. Every curve of a tulip is different. So some of them are more curved than others, and some are more straight. And I think I'm going to follow the line of the first one. But pull it in a little deeper. There we go. All right, so now we've got 3 tulips in here, and they will do whatever they want. Tulips have a mind of their own, let me just tell you. So they will start to straighten up. If your light source, your window is over here, they might start to lean towards. They are phototrophic, so they will follow the light. So when they are packed in boxes, they know that when they grow out of the ground that they grow straight. So when they're in boxes, if they're left in boxes too long, they will start to grow towards what they feel is the light. So until they have a light source, they will continue to bend and grow this way. But once they are out and they have a source of light, whether it is an incandescent light, whether it's fluorescence, or whether it is the sun coming in through the window, it will follow it, and they will also grow. Their stems will grow. So if that bothers you and you don't like how it's transforming your arrangement, you can take them back out again, give them a little snip, and tuck them back in. All right, so the next thing that we're going to work with is going to be our orchids. And I'm going to pop 2 little heads off with my scissors. That way they stay attached to the stem for as long as possible, and they come with a nice large tube, and we refill them and recut their stems as needed. So the neat thing about the Cymbidium orchid is they have these fun big petals on the outside. And sometimes you can get them to cooperate, and you can get them to reflex open. Like this one here is already reflexed back. So in order to do so, we're going to put our thumb back here and our fingers inside of it, gently, very gently push up this center area here. Now you can split it right open. So if you feel that there's resistance, don't do it. So we're going to just carefully, my fingers are thumb on the back, fingers are right on the other side of it. Gently, gently, gently pushing into that hollow to see if we can get it to, it's going to do it, pop back. So that opens up the face of the orchid even more so that we have more face space. This one's all closed in. So let's get him, see if he can cooperate also. Got these two bottom ones to sit open a little bit more. Let's see if we can get this top piece. Again, we're just pushing gently with a thumb against my finger to get it to rotate. There we go. Now it is more open. Remember how closed that looked before? Let's go back to our original look here. All closed in. Pop them open. Bigger face. All right, so the water tubes. Why do we have the water tubes? The stems of our orchids are very short. They're maybe 1.5 inches max from the stem. They're great to work with a whole piece, but it is a very expensive endeavor to use that whole piece. But we can still have great color and use of floral materials, mixing in these tropicals with our regular flowers by putting them into a water tube here. So I'm just very carefully making sure that I've cut them on an angle, and I just cut them quickly off of the stem, but I'm going back in and cutting at an angle so that I can pop through this hole in the center, and gently, very gently, I'm pushing through. After a while, you can't push on the stem, so you kind of have to gather the flower and push in. Okay. Where shall we place these? Well, we've got another area right here where we've got our trachelium and our tree fern towards the middle and back that we can just nestle and tuck our cymbidium into. There we go. We've got them tucked into place. Now, as you're watering your arrangement throughout the week, from time to time, pull out that water tube, check the line on your water, and give it some more water as the week goes on. And if you notice, I'm taking this one branch here and just pulling it behind my orchid, so it's kind of holding the orchid up, but it's also not blocking the view of the face of the orchid. All right, the last element that we're going to use before we get to playtime with our equisetum is we're going to put in our ruscus. And I brought this in just because you are going to have some holes. You're probably going, I still see foam. I still see foam, Heather. We need to address that. So we are going to take our stem and break it down like we have in the past into multiple pieces. Sometimes you're only going to have one leaf. As I went back, I grabbed some tree fern there. Let's tuck that back in, gather that together, tuck, tuck, tuck. Find the foam. There we go. I'm going to cut off one more piece, and I'm going to leave this in case we need a point. So where do I see foam on my arrangement? Just from looking at it from your angle, I see a little darkness down here. So I'm going to put a little piece into this front area. I know right here, I can look at it from my side angle, there is foam that is visible on that side as well. So I'm actually going to tuck two pieces in there, layering one on top of the other. And they actually resemble rose leaves. So that's the fun part of it. On the back side, our one rose has done an amazing job, but I still feel right here, you see darkness. You see that it's potential foam that we're looking at. So let's get another little tidbit down into there. We have our second piece. We can break that one down as well into multiple pieces. I'm going to continue to address that area across the back, covering that foam. And it makes a nice break. Now, I'm looking through the front of my arrangement and diagonally through. I see a little bit of foam in there. So I am going to tuck another piece into there. Tree fern has a lot of static, so kind of stick it to the side. You might have to like wipe off the side of your container. From above, there are two places where you could put the top pieces of your ruscus of each stem. And one would be in this area right here to kind of back up your carnations. There is a little foam showing underneath there because all that is in that area are your branches and your carnation stems. So you might feel you need to put a little bit in that area. You might feel over here I don't have it as much, but maybe over here by your tulips and where some of your tree fern is, you can see foam and you feel, just make sure that you're not placing it in the center. It'll, see how that's a great line going there. We put him in, he kind of breaks that up, not as great a view. You can either place it over here to hold the line with the tulips, or you can bank him down over here on the side. You don't want to go much further in this direction. That's a little distracting. So either right here or right out there, okay? That way you're using it for foam coverage. You're not distracting the line that we've created with our flowers, but you still have it there for bulk, because when you look around through the arrangement, as I turn it, you can see where I have used it into the arrangement. Okay. I'm going to put the arrangement aside because when we work with our equisetum, we're going to need a little bit of room. Okay, here we go. This guy is very long. Our wires are not as long. So we have to make some decisions when we're working with it. We want to bend it into pieces. So I will probably cut off some of the bottom here. We can use this as a linear form. We're going to continue with this electrifying look with our arrangement. Now this we can weasel right through the bottom and go straight up. It'll only go till about this point, and that's okay. Or we can start partway through. I'm going to start not at this knuckle, but at my second knuckle where my fingers are here. And I'm going to kind of think about a needle and thread. I'm going to tuck under the skin there and slide it through, holding carefully as I'm going, supporting the stem as I'm pushing the wire through. Right here you can see, can you see it? You can probably see it a little bit. And I'm going to take the rest of that carefully. Yeah, it's a little sharp. Pushing that through. Be careful on your fingers and nails. All right, now I have embedded, there's no more of it showing. It is embedded in the center here. And I can, if I squeeze down, I can feel it. So what do we want to do? This is an electric arrangement. We want to add a little bit of electricity to it. So we're going to create some zigzags with our equisetum and make some lines. Get another one going here. We're going to cut him down as well. This one, we're going to make almost like an archway with him. So I'm not going to start at the second. I'm going to start a little bit further back here, right above the first little knuckle there. I'm going to push through and push through. You can do all kinds of things with this. So I'm just showing you two different ideas with it. So I want the center of my arch here, and this will be a leg of my arch and the other leg of my arch. And I'm just going to bend, and the wire inside is going to hold it. And we're going to put this in as an archway in our arrangement. So we've got a zigzag and an archway. We've got two others to work with. Let's cut a little stem off. I'm going to not start with this first one. I'll probably wind up cutting that one off anyway. We're going to go above this knuckle to right below the second knuckle, because my wire will go just about to the top. We're going to create another zigzag. If I'm going to have one zigzag, I might as well have two. Be careful when you're poking. I just poked right through to the other side into my hand. So please be careful when you're forcing it through. Keep it at a slow slope. I'm going to poke that right through. Okay, so we're going to make another zigzag. Bend up, bend, bend. Where is that? Last of that wire. There we go. So now we've got another zigzag. And let's make another arch. That way we've got two zigzags, two arches. I want it to be in the center. I'm going to hold very carefully. Just skim through. This one's a little tougher. Careful how hard you're pushing. There we go. Okay, so my wire is in the center, and I'm going to create a little tighter arch. All right, now where do we place these? We've got these four pieces here. You can figure out what to do with them afterwards. If you want to use them, if you don't, you can just keep them aside. So as far as archways go, let's get our archways. I have one a little taller than the other. So my taller one is going to head towards the back of my arrangement. And we're just going to frame our pieces in the front. And our second one, we're going to mirror that, but down a little bit further in this front area. You might have to cut off the little bulbous end, the top. Get that, there we go. So now we've got two pieces here framing our central area here where we want people to focus and look. Now, with our zigzag, we have our line starting up here at the front. We want people to end down over here. So that is where our zigzags are going to come into play. So where do we start them? That will be totally up to you. You might want to start them here on the side and have them zagging out to the end. You might want to have them more towards the front. I'm going to come this, if that a little shorter. I'm going to come behind my Cymbidium orchid and get that placed in there. Be careful with your Cymbidiums that you don't knock off. There we go. We got a little electric zigzag going on. And then we'll get a second one here as well. I'm going to come in front of the tulips. Come this way. Here we go. We've got a zigzaggy arrangement that now our container was this big and now our arrangement is 3 times as wide, which is kind of fun. What do we do with these? Can we use them? Absolutely. I am going to not use them in mine, but please feel free. You can cut these down into smaller pieces. I'll show you right now where you can use them, let's say in the back. You have some space back here. I cut them at an angle on the top, so they would be kind of fun. And you can just bury them back here following that same line of your bridge that we created, our archway. So now we have 3 of them in there. If the camera will focus in on them. But they're not disturbing any of the lines going on in the front. There we go. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've had fun working with this bright electric color of magenta, pairing together chartreuse and orange and hot pink and magenta together with one another to see how those colors bounce off and really electrify one another as we work with Pantone's color of the year. Thank you for joining me. This is Heather from Flowers by Jenny Lind. We do have more classes coming up this spring. We have them listed on our website at flowersbyjennylind.com. Look for the heading across this top that says design classes, and it'll give you all the information that you need. You can sign up online or give us a call at the shop. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day.